Hey, what's up, everybody? Trey Griggs here with Beta Consulting Group for another episode of Standing Out, a daily podcast about sales, marketing, and leadership. If you would take a moment, please go to betaconsultinggroup.com and see how we can help you out with your sales and marketing strategies. And while you're there, take a look at the events page at the upcoming Tough Mudder Charity Challenge. We'd love for you to partner with us to help raise money for Battle Buddy 3 Gun and to see what craziness is going on. In about 10 days, I'm getting nervous because I ran 2 miles today. Feel pretty good, but it's 9 miles and 30 obstacles. So we'll see how it goes. But that's coming up really soon, and it should be a lot of fun. So check it out there at the events page and donate if you would. It all adds up to help wounded, paralyzed veterans. It's going to be a great charity, great organization to support. And it's going to be a great day. And if you're close to St. Louis, feel free to come in and check it out. You can sign up to come in for the weekend. You can even join the race if you're already in shape and ready to go. So love to see you there, and that will be a lot of fun. Also, a shout out to my sponsor, TAFS. They are the good guys in freight factoring, helping drivers become educated on how to best use their services and to grow their companies with the best resources. So make sure you check out TAFS.com when you get a chance. All right, it is time to bring on our guest today. Very excited to have these guys on the show. This is my first threesome. That sounds kind of weird. My first threesome on Standing Out of having two guys join the show with me. So we're going to change things up a little bit and have a great time. But everybody, please welcome to the show the CEO and COO of Loadsmith, David Stemm and Brett Suma. David, what's up, man? How are you doing?
Trey, I'm great. How are you?
Doing good. What's up, Brett? How are you?
I'm well, Trey. How are you?
Good. You see, we had to reconfigure the entire platform to accommodate for an extra person, but we got it done. So thanks to the team for doing that. So guys, thanks so much for joining the show. We had a chance to connect a couple of months ago, and I got to learn a little bit about what's happening in your world. Tell us what's good about what's going on over at Loadsmith.
Go ahead, David.
Oh no, Brett, I wouldn't steal your thunder, buddy.
Yeah, no, I mean, Loadsmith, look, we're 2.5 years into this journey, and a lot of the things that we've been working on and that we've been planning for the last 3 years, let's say, are starting to come to fruition, just in terms of, little pieces of information that we're starting to put out in terms of the business that we're really building. I think that, probably a lot of our contemporaries when we started this venture didn't really realize what we were up to, but kind of seemed a little odd that we were starting a freight brokerage. And now that as some of the other pieces are falling, I think things are starting to make a little bit more sense and starting to get a little bit clearer picture of really what our intent is over the next, 3 to 10 years, really.
So what is the story behind Loadsmith? Like, what led you to start that? And what are some of these things that you're wanting to change or do differently that are really starting to come to fruition?
Yeah, I think that, I spent 20 years working at a large trucking company, and I was very fortunate in my time there. I got to experience that really in kind of two different buckets of career. And what I mean by that is my first 10 years was all pretty much organic growth. And that was a really fun ride to be on, to be involved in a rocket ship of growth, and in an organic growth way. And then the last 10, we really spent a lot of time doing acquisitions. And so really got to spend, 2 different careers, really focused on 2 different types of growth, and was very fortunate to learn a tremendous amount. And so the concept of Loadsmith really was, what is next in truckload transportation? And so when we started to think about what's next in truckload transportation, we gravitated to technology and to a technology platform. And so when you start hearing about little things that are, coming out in terms of how we're aligning and the tech stack that we're building, all of a sudden now we're starting to see what the future really is going to look like. And really what the future is for Loadsmith is, a capacity as a service technology platform that digitally connects our assets to our carrier partners and really moves freight in an automated middle mile. So there's a lot of exciting things happening, a lot of pieces to the puzzle that still haven't been announced, more partnerships, more technology that's coming online. But we feel very confident in the future of truckload transportation and the evolution of it. And we really feel that we're really going to be at the forefront of that evolution.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a lot of freight brokerages, new ones especially, that are really focusing on technology and creating new solutions out there, that it's probably difficult for existing, brokerages to be able to make those changes or to make some of those transitions based upon their processes they've been doing for several years. There's several players in the space that are thinking the same way that you're thinking, and I think that's great for industry. It's really kind of revolutionary to have that thought process moving forward, to start building technology that matters and that makes a huge difference. Although, what are your thoughts about, like, what I'm noticing is that each brokerage is oftentimes creating technology. Is it going to just continue this fragmented technology that we have in transportation? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that when you start talking about like building technologies, I agree with you, Trey. I think that there's a lot of people trying to do a lot of things. Who makes it to the end, and how that shakedown works, and who, whether there's stickiness or not with your particular platform. I think lots of people are trying, and lots of people are trying different things. And I just always encourage everybody to try. I think there's room and space for everybody. And that being said, though, you have to be thinking about the future. And to your point, we're lucky because we don't have a legacy business that we're trying to retrofit, right? Like our business from day one has always been about how do we deploy technology, how do we create technology, and how do we build that into our business, as opposed to having to retrofit a much larger organization.
Yeah, it's a huge challenge that existing brokerages are going to have to kind of work through, that you guys just don't have. It's kind of nice starting with a blank piece of paper. Now, David, how did you and Brett get connected? What's the story of you two guys coming together for this?
I started working for Brett kind of by accident, and I think 2008. I just graduated from Arizona State, and
The Sun Devils.
Yeah, we're actually both Sun Devils. Jessica
Nice.
and Nick are Sun Devils as well.
I should have been one. I wasn't thinking right, but I should have been one.
Yeah, you really missed out there. But you can always go back to school.
Oh no, I'm done.
So I started working for Brett in 2009, and for some strange reason, he decided to become interested in my career, and really along the way, I kind of rode his wake as he advanced in his career. And, he spent a tremendous amount of time, developing me and some others that we're very close with still to this day, to get to where we are today. So one day Brett called me and said, "Hey, would you like to talk about this crazy thing that I want to do?" And I said, "Sure." And, he laid out the idea of Loadsmith and, kind of the short, medium, and long-term vision. And it was never a question of whether or not I would want to participate in it, want to be a part of it in any capacity. The same is true for Jessica. That simply we've been so close with Brett for so long that what could go wrong, really. So we've been very close for a long, long time, and certainly I always knew that he and I would probably do something together in our future. I thought it'd be when we're old men, but luckily, it started out at a much younger time.
Yeah, no, that's great. And talk for a minute, David, about what it meant to you as a young executive, or just a young, fresh new employee out of college, to have somebody see something in you and invest time in you to help you develop your career. Just talk about the value of that.
Well, it meant everything. I think that where we spent the early years of our career, we were both really fortunate to work for some world-class leaders. From day one to the day that we came aboard to Loadsmith. And those leaders really took stock in Brett and took stock in me, and have shown us how important it is to look at the next generation of employee that comes on, and how we need to focus our energy and attention on helping their careers advance in such a way that ours did. If you don't have a leader that's really invested in you, whether you're fresh out of school or you're 5 years in coming into a new organization, you feel lost. And we were both very fortunate to never, we always had a compass that was guiding us north, whether that would be Brad or somebody else in that organization. So very grateful, very blessed for all the leaders that we've had in the past, and certainly we're reinvesting that back into our people today.
Yeah, I love what you said about making that leap into Loadsmith with Brett. What can go wrong? I think that it's so powerful for people to understand that, people want to be a part of a journey with people that they believe in, that they trust. People don't leave companies, they leave people. And people don't follow companies, they follow people. And I think this is a really classic example of that, because you guys obviously had a chemistry, you spent time together. And so, David, when you hear this wild idea of let's start something from scratch, you're like, yeah, of course, let's go do this. I believe in you. I trust in you. And I think that had to be a lot of what was in your mind as you took that leap as well.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I talked to my wife about it after Brett called, and she said, "Okay, well, when are we going to move to Denver? When do we start?" It was never a question of, should we do it? Should we make the sacrifice? Should
Yeah.
we leave our comfort zone?
Yeah. And how great is it to have a spouse who will like speak that into you, right? Like, let's do it. Let's go. Like believing in you. She obviously believed, that you guys could, work well together. And so that's really cool too, to have your spouse supporting you in that endeavor. It had to change the whole game for you.
Yeah, well, Jess and Jamie really do the heavy lifting at Loadsmith, I think.
Same with my company as well, with my wife too. There would be no Beta Consulting Group without Tammy Griggs saying, "Yeah, let's do this. Let's go do this." So definitely can jive with you on that. Now, Brett, quick question to you: What was it that led you to pour into someone like David? Did you have somebody do that to you, or did you like what led to you say this is important? I need to do that.
Well, I think that David is a representation of several dozen people that during my time, I poured a lot of time and energy into, and a lot of those people work for us at Loadsmith or work with us at Loadsmith, and that recognizing talent, recognizing people, recognizing their motivations, and then pouring your time and energy into it. I think that I really had an epiphany. Probably in, gosh, it had to have been July of 2008. And I was not performing very well in my career in terms of the output. I was in a great position career-wise, had a tremendous amount of responsibility, and I wasn't performing the way that I needed to perform. And I had a piece of business that I had brought on that was a struggle. It was a different type of business that the company had never participated in before, and it was kind of sinking my ship a little bit. And I had a great mentor in a gentleman named Scott Tice, and probably for 4 or 5 months, I talked to Scott Tice every single morning on my drive to the office for 45 minutes and game planned what I needed to work on today, what were the levers I needed to move. And it always kept coming back to, it's all about the people. It's not about you working, digging in more or, micromanaging. It's just about teaching context. And so really I had the opportunity to have some mentors like Scott Tice or Joe Vitrito, who's now the CEO of PAM, Mike Liu, who's the president of Knight Transportation, Keith Knight, Kevin Knight. They all had tremendous amount of influence on me because they took a lot of time and put a lot of energy into me. And, it was through the moments of not performing to where I should be performing that those people really embraced me, poured a lot of energy into me, and then really taught me that, gosh, it's really about developing that next line of people. And so then I just spent all of my time, not on transactional work, but just on people. And after that, really, when you started to see the results post July of 2008, all of a sudden it was like we were just firing on all cylinders. And and then you look at, you fast forward to now and you say, well, okay, so Brett, built his initial team, David, Nick, Jessica, kind of our four that we started. Those were very easy one phone call, acquisitions of people. One, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. Once you tell, David, and honestly, I told David and Jessica, they were my first 2 phone calls. I told each of them that the other person was in before I had confirmation. And so each of them was under the impression that the other was coming. And then after that, just one phone call after another, as we have built out our team, it's a lot. Those phone calls are super easy in terms of bringing on talent, because they say, oh, well, it's not just Brett, it's David, Jessica, Nick, it's Ed, it's Brandon, it's Jason. And so all of a sudden that team just looks differently, and those phone calls become super simple, because to your point, Trey, they look at the team of people and they say, that's a team of people that are going to really foster my growth. They're a team of people that have a vision. They're looking at what the future is. And then at the end of the day, it comes back to how you treat each other. And, we're an organization that encourages a tremendous amount of autonomy and a tremendous amount of mistakes. And what I mean by that is we embrace the mistakes, right? Like we want people to make decisions. We empower them to make those decisions. And then when they make a mistake, it's like, okay, perfect. This is a great opportunity for us to learn. We were out of the market in this. We didn't, our process is flawed here. How do we improve that process? And then you just empower everybody to do that. And so I think, coming back to answer your question though, is it's just all about context. How do you teach context? And if you can do that in a way where it's positive and where people don't feel threatened by making decisions and making mistakes, then all of a sudden people really start to learn. And when they start to pick up the context, then you just get out of their way and let them do their deal.
Man, there's a lot to unpack there. There's just so much gold in what you just said. I want to go through some of those just a little bit. And, as James Bradley mentioned, the mentorship is sadly not, popular anymore. That's a huge thing that we're seeing, is that mentorship is not valued. People don't spend a lot of time in mentorship. You guys are clearly doing that. But at the same time, I think what's also really cool is that you understand the value of letting people make mistakes. You can't have it both ways, where you let people make mistakes and you don't tolerate those mistakes. Like, you have to tolerate and even, like you said, embrace the mistakes so that people can learn and get better. And I love the fact that you're building that culture where you want people to make decisions, because then they start to learn on their own. They start to gain competence. And then you as an organization gain speed. Like, there's a lot of speed that goes into it when they can just fully make their own mistakes. David, as you have taken, Brett's leadership and mentorship, I guess you'd say, over the years, and started to apply that, how do you think about, leading people to really help them thrive in the situation and the job that they're in?
I think Brett kind of hit it on the head with, allowing people the latitude to make mistakes. Nobody's made more mistakes in our business than I have, right? When we started Loadsmith, we had no idea, we had no experience in surface freight brokerage, none, and we had to learn through our mistakes. And I was encouraged to learn through mistakes early on, although, the conversations were probably a little bit less docile than they are today between Brett and I during those early days. But just always having, enough rope to go out and do what I need to do, and having people there, Brett or, Mike Liu or Joe Vitrio or Scott Tyson, all those people that we talked about there to help you learn the context. Once you feel comfortable and you learn from your mistakes, it's so easy to go out to the people that work for you that are outside my office right now, the Connors and the Andrews and the Johns, and give them that same autonomy to go out and learn for themselves with guidance from where I've learned, from where Brett's learned, and from the people before us have learned. It's a really, really easy thing to do when you've had people take stock in you and give you that autonomy to go out and learn on your own, and give you guidance when you stumble or stub your toe.
No, I love that. The truth is, for most people that join the workforce, the idea of making mistakes is not embraced. Think about school for a minute. Like, mistakes are frowned upon. Failure is like frowned upon in terms of, making mistakes. I love what DJ just said up there, that you embrace the mistakes and let your employees feel like they're playing in the sandbox with you. Like, just giving them the autonomy to do that is powerful. But for a lot of employees, they don't grow up with that mindset. And so sometimes it can be a challenge for them, and finding people that have that mindset can just, again, to increase that speed. When you guys think about adding to your team, you're a fast growing brokerage, you're adding to your team. Obviously, you should probably start with the people that and do that. Do you guys have a philosophy around trying to find the right people that are going to embrace some of these cultural aspects that you have in your team? Are you looking for people that maybe your current employees already know as references? Are you finding net new people? And how do you really evaluate people to see if they're going to be a good fit for your organization?
I think it's a mixed bag, Trey. Certainly there's a lot of people we know in the industry that would love to join our team, you know, in all different geographic areas. But what it comes down to, whether it's, an experienced professional that we know, or, a second degree of connection, or someone who we don't know, really it comes down to, are they creative, innovative, and authentic?
Nice. Yeah, I think,
and you have to check all three of those boxes, right? If you can check all three of those boxes, let's have a conversation and see how you can help us add value to our customers and to our carriers and to our brand. We're so fortunate to have the people we have. We're so blessed to have the people that we have that pour into this business just as much as Brett and Jessica and Nick and I do. And we certainly want to find more of them, but it's got to be you've got to have those three boxes checked: creative, innovative, and authentic.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the fact that you guys are just really thankful for your team. Like, you appreciate your team. That says a lot about your leadership and how you approach them. I think that great leaders understand that they're there to serve everybody else and to help everybody else, not the other way around. And it sounds like you guys definitely have that mentality with your team at Loadsmith. Now, I want to ask Brett, why Colorado? Did you grow up there? You're in Denver. What's the reason for being in Colorado?
Our headquarters is in Denver. We have, an operations center in Chattanooga, another one in Phoenix, and then a sales office in Southern California. Why Colorado? To be honest with you, I moved to Colorado just about 10 years ago. And I moved to Colorado kind of in an unannounced way. I just decided to move, and have been here since. And so, when I moved here and worked for Knight, I did spend a lot of time, commuting back to Phoenix and spending time there. But it was, just the place that I wanted to be. And luckily, after a lot of discussion, Knight allowed me to do that. For the most part, when I worked here, I had a wonderful mentor, however you want to call it, and a gentleman named Bill Ramsey, who is still a main player in Knight's operation. And he and I worked so well together from a remote work perspective. And I learned a tremendous amount from him in terms of engagement, being remote and engagement. And so Colorado just kind of happened. When we first started thinking about Loadsmith, though, we did a lot of background work in terms of where would be the best place for us to start a business. Denver and Austin. Austin ranked 1 and Denver ranked 2 in terms of relocatability, meaning that people would be willing to relocate. Pretty much anybody in any field, not on an individual basis, but in a field basis, was willing to relocate to either Austin or Denver. And so, it made a lot of sense because I already lived in Colorado. Unfortunately, we had to have a few people move to join the team, but it's just, it's been, that's just kind of how it happened. And I love living in Colorado, but I also have a lot of enjoyment in Phoenix and our team in Phoenix. And obviously that is a place where I spend a lot of time, and then our team in Chattanooga as well. And then when I get to go to our office in Irvine, California, it's literally a couple blocks away from where I lived when I was in sales and spent 3 years almost in California. So there's a lot of familiarity in what we do. I think that one of the things, Trey, that you'll find when you, if you spend any time with us, is that we just recently had our third year anniversary of getting our incorporation. Okay. It was April 12th. What I love thanks. What I love about that is that we technically don't have to call ourselves a startup anymore. I have never personally bought into that whole startup life and that startup mentality. Like, I don't like referring to us as a startup. And if you came and worked for us, and people that we have hired that have worked at startups, when they come and work for us, they say, this doesn't feel like a startup. You guys have known each other for too long. You've worked with each other for too long. And it's all about familiarity. And so we do, we execute freight, and that's what we do. And we've been doing that for decades together. And, we do it for each other now. But, at the end of the day, we're not a startup. We don't want to be considered a startup. We're a very efficient business that does an extreme amount of business with a handful of people. What I mean by that is that we started this business with just a few people, and we have grown and grown and grown, and we've added people when we've needed to, and our growth has been chunky, and we're very fortunate in the number of transactions per person that we get, and it's comes back to that context and creating lanes that people can operate in, where if they do make mistakes, those mistakes, they're not that they're inconsequential, but they don't have the weight of anything other than learning. I think one of the things that we always say whenever we're working with something, if I get a call from Connor, who's an account executive with us, he says, well, what do you think about this rate? And he already, he won the load from the customer. And my reply is, well, the good news is we always get to find out, right? Like we always get to find out. And so what, good, bad, ugly, whatever, we get to find out, and then we learn from it and move forward. And I don't think I answered your question on why Colorado, but
No. I mean, there are worse places to be than Colorado. There's no doubt about it. But I've done that as well, where I up and moved at one point. We moved to Portland. Although we didn't know a lot about Portland when we moved there. You probably knew more about Denver than we knew about Portland when you made the jump. But as far as not being accounted a startup, I bet what people are actually saying is this isn't chaos. There's actually some organization here. There's some structure here, and that's a kudos to you guys as well for the kind of brushing off that stigma of a startup, even as a young company. And again, congratulations on all the success. 3 years in is nothing to bat an eye at. It's a real accomplishment to do that, and obviously to be successful like you guys are, which is tremendous. Are you guys? Do you have any remote employees, or is everybody pretty much in an office somewhere in Chattanooga, Phoenix, LA, or Colorado?
We do provide some hybrid opportunities, and we do have some remote employees as well.
Yeah, what's been the challenge of that from a management standpoint? Because I know that this, for a lot of people, especially, this is new. Now, you had the experience of being remote yourself, so I'm sure that helps. But what are some of those challenges that you guys are working through and overcoming in the hybrid/remote environment from a leadership perspective?
When the pandemic started, I guess it was March of 2020, we had actually made the decision to leave our office that we'd had in Denver and send everybody home. And at that time, we had 2 employees that were just about to start the following Monday. And we were very small at this point. I think we had maybe 7 or 8 people. And so right out of the gate, we were navigating this volatile freight market, the uncertainty of what's going to happen to our business. And okay, now we've got to go all in on onboarding and training and developing new people remotely. And so that kind of went in waves. We came back to the office, we went back home, we came back to the office. And it's exceptionally difficult as a leader to not just manage people, but to develop people and develop that context. And it was especially hard on me because really, the bulk of our people report up through me, they're in operations. And there's so much gray that we operate in, and how do you navigate that gray, and how do you make the right decisions and avoid making the wrong decisions, and putting in processes to help keep people from going too far out of bounds if they make that mistake. And honestly, it was brute force that allowed us to continue to navigate through that, and a tremendous amount of hard work. But it comes back to bringing on the right people, that not that you can just trust to get their work done every day from home, from in their basement or their kitchen or wherever they're working, but to really dive in and give everything they have every single day, to not just execute and deliver results, but to continue to learn. The times we were at home, I think I spent about 9 hours on the phone every single day with just people, not with customers, not with carriers, not with vendors, but just our people. And by the end of the day, I was completely wiped out from talking on the phone.
I'm sure.
But those, you have to invest in them, and it's really easy to invest in someone when they're sitting right outside your office. It's really challenging to invest in a large group of people when you have to talk to them on Teams or Zoom or on the telephone. But it's just an investment you have to make. Otherwise, you're not going to be successful.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people right now, especially mid-level managers that have been doing it for a long time, who have never had to manage remotely, this is going to be a real challenge. And there's going to be hopefully some good training courses and education for people to help out with that. But I think you're right, just being intentional about that, whether it's a phone call, a video call, or using technology that helps out. That's a critical component now to creating culture and identity and relationship in a remote world that obviously starting in an environment where it was more like that, it's a little bit easier and having some of that experience yourself, but it's just never easy to do that remotely. And it's going to be a real challenge as people do that moving forward. Because listen, flies by. We're at 30 minutes. It's crazy. This goes so fast and there's so much more that we could talk about. I hope that you guys will come back and join the show again at some point. We'd love to have you back on and talk more about what's happening at Loadsmith and obviously the culture and leadership that you guys have created there. Would you guys be up for coming back and be on the show?
Oh yeah. Yep, absolutely.
Brett mentioned he wanted to do a show live with you from the Tough Mudder.
Oh, well, come on. Yes,
Yeah.
Absolutely. We would love to do that. In fact, I've been thinking about this. My episodes are actually one off from being complete. So episode 34 is on Friday and it's driving me crazy as somebody with OCD. So we might want to have one on Saturday so we could have, get back on an even number moving forward because it's driving my OCD mind absolutely nuts. So you guys come to the Tough Mudder. We will definitely do a live showing there. Or maybe you could just have a microphone and run alongside while I'm filled with mud, just trying to get through the course. Whatever you want to do, I'm definitely down for that. But guys, thanks so much for being on the show. It was great having you. And for those that are watching, thanks for the comments, James, DJ. Appreciate having you guys here and everybody else. Make sure you come back tomorrow for episode 37 at 10:30 a.m. Central. We got Eric Weedle, the CEO of Doc 411 on. He's going to be talking to us about what they are doing to make pickup and drop-off locations, shipper locations, have that information more accessible to drivers and make the experience better for drivers when they're picking up and dropping off a load. So that's going to be great. We've got other great guests the rest of the week. But until then, everybody have a fabulous day. And thanks again for watching Standing Out, a daily podcast about sales, marketing, and leadership. David, Brett, thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Trey.
All right, we'll see you guys soon.